My name's Rebecca Davis and I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I'm a 36-year-old Jewish woman and my whole life I've loved animals. Just like Lior Hadad Atias. Lior was also 36 years old. She was also Jewish and she was a huge animal lover, even training as a veterinary nurse. On October 7, Lior attended the Supernova Music Festival near Re'im in southern Israel. She, along with 8 others, were there as volunteers for the Alem Youth in Distress organisation, which provides counselling to anyone undergoing a mental health crisis, particularly at raves where drug use is common. When Hamas began firing rockets at 6:30 a.m, the team of volunteers divided into 2. Some looked after festival goers who were in shock. The others began loading up their 2 cars to leave. When Lior and the team fled the site, they quickly came into a traffic jam. There they were faced with a Hamas van with Kalashnikovs and RPGs. Quickly they turned the cars around and fled in the opposite direction, towards Kibbutz Be'eri. Hamas's gunshots followed them, drawing closer. The group abandoned their cars and for 6 hours they ran for their lives. Finally, they hid in a grapefruit and orange orchard. They heard shouts in Arabic drawing closer and gunfire. Lior was shot by Hamas terrorists. Her fellow volunteer Mayan picked Lior up to see if she was conscious, but she wasn't. Mayan later recounted, "They were still shooting at us, so I kept going. I kept running." Of the 9 Alem volunteers, 6 made it out alive. Lior didn't. Her body was only recovered 8 days later. Lior was wife to Guy and mum to 6-year-old daughter Alma. Lior was daughter to Tikva and Yigal and a sister to Mor and Dudi. Lior's loved ones have remembered her as a huge animal lover with a larger-than-life personality and a winning smile. Reflecting on Lior's name, which means my light, her husband Guy said at her funeral, "Lior brought light into every room she entered. Everyone fell in love with her in a second." There are so many people here whose lives she only touched for a second, but they won't forget her their entire lives.
My name is Burnie and I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I'm a 39-year-old Jewish man, husband and father of 2 daughters, just like Shachar Zemach. Shachar was also Jewish. He was also 39 years old, a husband to Ofri, and he was also the father of 2 girls, Ella 4 and Netta 2. Shachar grew up and lived his life on his beloved kibbutz Be'eri. Following his army service, he studied economics and politics at university before working at the finance ministry. 3 years ago, he accepted a job as chief financial officer of the Kibbutz Be'eri print shop. Shachar was a prominent left-wing activist and member of the Meretz party. He was strongly committed to advocating for the rights of the Palestinian people. On October 7, 340 Hamas terrorists invaded Kibbutz Be'eri, including about 100 elite Nukba operatives. As a member of the kibbutz security team, Shachar went out to fight them. He was amongst those responsible for defending patients at the makeshift triage center inside the kibbutz dental clinic. Shachar fought fiercely until he exhausted his ammunition. He then gathered more supplies from wounded friends and again continued to fight. The battle lasted 7 hours. Eventually, Shachar ran out of all ammunition. He was forced to retreat inside the clinic. The terrorists persisted. Shachar was reportedly heard screaming in English, "Please, I'm not your enemy." There was more shooting. A grenade was thrown. Those 5 words were Shachar's last. He was slain alongside 3 of his fellow security team. They were amongst the 132 civilians, security, police, and soldiers who were brutally murdered on Kibbutz Be'eri that day. A further 32 people were taken hostage by Hamas. 2 days later, Shachar was laid to rest on the kibbutz, buried in the very ground he grew up from child to man, husband to father. Shachar was son to Shlomit and Doron, and brother to Yarden, Itai, Idor, and Shai. They too all lived in Be'eri. Remembered as a man of peace, beloved and kind, Shachar's father Doron told media that his son died with an M16 in his hand, but in his other hand was always an olive branch. Shachar liked to run, hike and travel around the country. He was also a keen soccer fan. Speaking at his funeral, Shachar's friends said that he was the ultimate combination of serious and lighthearted. By day he wore the suit of a CFO, and by night he was lighting the bonfire with the kids. They said he was a man with a thirst for life, who loved others, an optimist and brave. This is how we'll remember him. And this is how we'll continue to talk about him to his children, Ella and Netta.
My name is Tammy Resnik and I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I also hold dual Israeli citizenship. I'm a Jewish woman in my 50s. I am a wife and a mother of two. My eldest, Zohar, is in his early 20s. I'm also a writer, and 15 years ago I had major surgery, just like Michal Admoni. Michal was also in her 50s. She was also an Israeli Jew, and she was also a writer. She had written 3 novels. Michal was a wife to Doron, a mother of 2, stepmother of 2, and her eldest child, Guy, was in his 20s. 15 years ago, Michal underwent major back surgery, which left her disabled.
My name is Zohar Resnik, and I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I'm an older brother to my sister, Shira. I'm Jewish and an Australian-Israeli dual national. Today, October 7th, is my 22nd birthday, and if I and my family had still been living in Israel, I would be serving in the IDF, just like Guy Admoni. Guy was also in his 20s, and a big brother to Gully. He was an Israeli Jew. Guy was also a captain in the IDF, holding a high-ranking position as an intelligence officer. He had a deep love for Israel. At 14, when asked by his teacher where he saw himself in 20 years, Guy said, "Either as Prime Minister or dying for my country."
On October 7, Michal's husband Doron was overseas. Their daughter Gully was home for the weekend, and when Michal offered her car so she could see her boyfriend, off she went. Only Michal and Guy remained at home on kibbutz Kfar Aza. In a matter of hours, the idyllic kibbutz of 700 members was transformed into a hell on earth. 62 people, men, women, children, and babies were horrifically and brutally slaughtered by Hamas terrorists. 19 others were captured and taken hostage into Gaza. Michal and her only son, Guy, had hidden in their safe room. They hugged, and it was in that position that they were executed by Hamas terrorists. They died in each other's arms.
Guy's father, Doron, said, "I knew that's how they would find them." She didn't leave him in life, and he didn't leave her either, also in death. Doron and daughter Gully remembered Michal for her silliness, for her great sense of humour, for her strength, and for her warm, comforting hugs. When laid to rest, Defence Minister Yoav Gallant granted a special request for Michal and Guy to be buried together at Tel Mon's military section, side by side.
Guy was remembered as the best big brother, son, boyfriend, uncle, and friend. Fiercely protective and a good person to the core. Speaking at their funeral, Guy's girlfriend Noah said, "He was a man who loved his country and wanted to fight for it. I'm certain that he would be content with the fact that he died protecting his home and his mother."
My name is Justin Amler. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I'm a 50-year-old Jewish man, husband, and father of 3. Just like Tsahi Idan. Tsahi, he's also Jewish, just 1 year younger than myself, and he's also a husband and a father. On the morning of October 7, Tsahi was at his home in kibbutz Nachal Oz with his wife Gali and 3 of his children, Mayan, 18, Yael, 11, and Shachar, who is only 9. When the kibbutz came under attack by rockets, the Idan family fled to their safe room. Soon, they heard a voice in Hebrew calling on them to come out. The voice was from 17-year-old neighbor Tomer Arava, who Hamas terrorists were holding at gunpoint. Tsahi clutched the safe room door handle to stop them from coming in, so they shot at the handle. A bullet hit Maryan. Tsahi screamed her name, and in shock he let go, and the terrorists were able to enter the room. There were still balloons floating in the house for Maryan's 18th birthday party just a few days earlier, but was too late. Hamas terrorists had killed her. And these same terrorists had streamed it live on Facebook. Later, Tomer, the 17-year-old neighbor that Hamas had forced to help them, was murdered too. Gali, Tsahi's wife, immediately went into survival mode. Footage shows her covering both of her children as the family sat on the kitchen floor. Tsahi sat hunched over and quiet. Gali later recalled that Tsahi was a man of concrete, the foundation of the family. But at that moment, he was broken. "How do you break a man?" she asked. "You kill his daughter in front of his eyes." Later that day, at about 1:30, the terrorists decided to leave, bounding and taking Tsahi, along with his neighbor Omri Miran, and 2 American women who were visiting. Gali remembers, each woman told their husband that they loved them. They told them not to be heroes and not to do anything stupid. Just come back to them alive. The children were shouting, pleading with the terrorists not to take their fathers. The terrorists told them to relax and that they would bring them back. They never did. The American women were later released in a hostage exchange deal, but Tsahi and Omri remain hostages in Gaza. At a recent protest in Tel Aviv, Tsahi's mother, Devorah, said, "We are still in the same nightmare of the massacre, the pogrom that took place in Tsahi's house. It's been 1 year since Tsahi was taken captive. 1 entire year, and we need him home now."